Hey everyone, can you hear me? Good. Oh, it's still loading. Hey. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're actually going to introduce you to all the different protocols, because tomorrow you guys will be doing technical workshops with them and learning how to spin up validators. And as Konstantin mentioned, it's really important to know what each network stands for so you can pick the ones that you love and actually do become a validator in their network. So these are like very quick introductions by people that are building the protocols. So here we have Merrick. He's one of the co-founders of Celo, and he's going to give a quick talk on Celo. And then we'll have NuCypher speak next. So take it away.
Cool, thank you, Sunju. Awesome, so I figured we would kind of maybe approach this with maybe 3 points, kind of the what, the why, and the heart. What is Celo? Why should you, if you're acting kind of purely out of self-interest, care? And then the heart, what's the mission? Why are we even all here? So yeah, let's just jump into the what. What is Celo? So for those of you who don't know, probably the easiest way to think about Celo as a mobile-first platform that makes it really easy to send kind of stable value to anyone's phone number, even if they haven't yet installed a Celo kind of wallet on their phone. So how does that work? What makes all of this work? I think there's kind of 3 underlying kind of innovations. First of all, Celo is mobile first. We've worked really hard to create a brand new ultralight client sync protocol that uses snark-based proofs to basically allow a mobile phone or a light client to really quickly sync with the peer-to-peer network. So full nodes basically construct these snark-based proofs that are roughly 400 bytes long that prove that a particular header is part of the chain. And then they ship these off to their light clients. Light clients can verify these really quickly, which allows kind of these mobile apps to then sync with the chain almost as fast as kind of a centralized kind of service could kind of connect to some servers in the back end. And so this allows kind of Celo to launch with a really easy to use kind of mobile app that's very similar to kind of Venmo or WeChat in terms of how kind of people get to use it and how quickly it kind of loads. Next, Celo has stability built in. It has this algorithmic stablecoin platform that it allows for multiple stable value assets to be kind of launched on the platform, all backed by the same kind of crypto asset over collateralized reserve. We're starting with the Celo dollar, and you can exchange the Celo dollar for kind of the native asset Celo gold using an on-chain kind of decentralized exchange that's kind of built in a Uniswap style manner. And perhaps more interestingly, you can pay for any transaction fee on the platform using these stable value assets. So you never have to worry about kind of keeping 2 balances on your account, one for the asset that you want to send and one for paying for transaction fees. If you want to send stable value to someone, you can pay for that transaction fee in that same asset, even though the stable value assets are implemented as tokens on the platform. And then finally, to kind of make it possible to have that kind of really easy to use phone number experience, Celo has this lightweight PKI that maps hashes of phone numbers to public keys. And so this allows anyone to easily find each other by phone number and transact securely. And perhaps what's even cooler is that we actually have a protocol for verifying these phone numbers in order to add kind of the hash of your phone number into this kind of PKI. And so the way this works is if a user is signing up with the mobile app, they'll get paired with 3 randomly selected validators on the protocol, who then send a cryptographically signed text message, which the user then resubmits back to the protocol, proving that with high probability that that user has access to that phone number. And so this is pretty interesting and new. If you're running a validator on the Celo network, you're not just responsible for securing the actual chain, you're also responsible for sending these kind of text messages to verify new users. So that's kind of at a very, very high level, the what. If you're interested in learning more, definitely check out our documentation at docs.celo.org. But maybe moving on to perhaps kind of the question that's maybe on everybody's minds, why should you participate in kind of running the Celo protocol? What are some ways that you can contribute in exchange for digital assets? I think, first and foremost, I think it's pretty, I think, just like any other proof of stake protocol, you can participate by running a validator. And then one of the things that I think is pretty unique and interesting on Celo for people wanting to run validators is that they get paid out in stablecoin instead of in kind of a volatile deflationary asset. And so as a validator, you get paid out roughly 75,000 Celo dollars for every kind of node that you're operating in the network per year. And so if you can get elected and run multiple of these, that can be a pretty significant side business. And it doesn't matter if the crypto market is volatile. It doesn't matter if we hit another crypto winter. You're always going to be making 75,000 Celo dollars. And so you kind of have that security, again, even if the market is volatile. So that's number one. Another way that you could potentially participate in the protocol is by running a validator group. If you heard me on the earlier panel talking about validator groups, you'll know that Celo has this kind of concept where we add an extra level of indirection between kind of the people who are staking and voting for validators. We add an extra layer in between that called validator groups. And so these folks are basically there to help validators get elected. And they don't need that much technical experience. If anything, they need more marketing experience. And so you can think of this a little bit as running a mining pool. But you won't have to kind of develop your own mining pool software. Everything is already kind of already done for you. You mostly have to focus on building a brand and convincing people with Celo Gold to kind of vote for you and thereby for kind of the validators that are affiliated with you. I think part of building that brand also requires auditing kind of the validators that you're working with, making sure that they're adhering to the best OPSEC practices out there. And then just simply kind of using that to get people excited and to vote for you. And so by helping these folks get elected, you can actually get a cut or a share of what they make. It's up to you to decide what that share should be. And yeah, I'll share some links at the end. And so say that you wanted to charge a 20% kind of share, and if you can get 5 validators into your group, then again, you could start earning around 75,000 Celo dollars. Now, I think if all of this sounds way too complicated for you, there's good news. There's actually another way that's even simpler to participate, and that's also quite unique to Celo. So in Celo, full nodes actually can earn rewards. And so a very easy way to participate in the protocol is just to run a full node. And the way this works is you get, as a full node, you're servicing light clients. So you're servicing these mobile phone users who are using this ultralight client sync protocol to connect to the network. They need to get their transactions kind of forwarded to the overall peer-to-peer network. And you can help them do that. And in exchange for that, you end up being able to charge a cut of any transaction fee for any transaction that they send out through you. And one thing that's really nice about this is you can spin up a full node without even having to purchase any Celo gold and staking any Celo gold. You can simply run the software just like back in the day. You could run a proof of work miner on your desktop computer. The same is true here, only it doesn't burn a lot of electricity. So that's kind of the why. Moving on to kind of the heart, the mission. I think making money is one thing, but I suspect most of the people are here because they really think that Web3 will kind of make a big difference in the world. And so to that end, I'd pick a project because the mission speaks to you. And so in the case of Celo, Celo's mission is to create a new financial system that creates the conditions for prosperity for all. And so as a starting point, we're creating this kind of lightweight bank account experience that lets anyone easily send, receive, and self-custody stable assets on their phone, even if they don't have access to a bank account. And so if this mission sounds interesting to you, then I think you'll fit right in with the community. So that's kind of the main kind of 3 points. Happy to answer any questions. I don't know, Shinju, if I still have time. But if so, yeah, happy to answer any questions. What are our competitors in the crypto world and in the traditional world? So I think in the traditional world, yep.
I think you can take 1 or 2 more questions, and then we should transition.
Sounds great. Cool. So competitors, I think that's a good question. I think in the non-crypto world, I think it's clear, Venmo, WeChat, all of these services that make it really easy to send kind of money around. I think there's nothing really that makes that really easy to send value overseas. And in many markets where people are unbanked today, these services don't exist. So the closest maybe is mobile money, like M-Pesa. Next, yeah, I'll answer the SMS question offline. But the short answer is that it's not an issue because your private keys are still used to secure your funds. Your phone number is only used to kind of map your phone number to your wallet. And so if someone steals your phone number, you'll end up getting a phone number mapped to 2 wallets. So anybody sending money to that phone number will get a warning and will have to pick which of the 2 wallets they want to send to. And I think most critically, the actual funds are never actually at risk because they're secured with your private key. Cool. So I think that's all the time I have. Yeah, thanks so much for listening. And if you're interested, definitely check us out, celo.org. And then we're doing a workshop tomorrow where Tim will go into how to set up a full node and how to set up a validator. Cool. Thank you. Shinju, are we moving on? If not, happy to answer any additional questions.
Yes, so we're transitioning. So if you can, McLean, if you can share your video.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Marek. Thanks, Shinju. Hey, everyone. My name is McLean Wilkinson. I am one of the co-founders of NuCypher. NuCypher is an encryption company. We build cryptographic infrastructure and developer tools for privacy-preserving applications. NuCypher network itself is a decentralized network, so sort of like a layer 2 on top of Ethereum that basically provides a set of interfaces and runtimes for threshold cryptography. The first of those being something called proxy re-encryption, which basically provides data privacy and encrypted data sharing and access controls for decentralized applications and other blockchain protocols. So a very simple example of something that you could build or use NuCypher for, building sort of application that has storing sensitive user data. So let's say a healthcare application, for example, and you want to ingest patient medical records and have those stored on something like IPFS or Swarm or really any kind of arbitrary storage layer. You obviously want those to be encrypted, but you still need some way to securely share those encrypted files with valid recipients. So in this case, like a doctor or hospital. And the NuCypher network basically enables you to do that, to delegate access to encrypted data in a decentralized and still end-to-end encrypted way. The NuCypher network is not so one important thing to note is it's not a layer 1 blockchain like a lot of the other projects that I think probably will be presenting during this conference. It's a service network that's provisioning a specific service. So, right now proxy re-encryption, but you can imagine in the future that other types of threshold cryptography could be deployed onto the network. So things like distributed key generation or threshold signatures or just vanilla Shamir secret sharing are all things that could be pretty easily deployed onto the NuCypher network. And then the nodes in the NuCypher network basically provide whatever that service is. So it's maybe similar in sort of architecture to projects like LivePeer, which provisions video transcoding, or Scale, or the Graph, for example, are kind of very similar projects in terms of architecture and how they work. And then the NuCypher, basically the NuCypher token, where that comes in, it's a work token. So if you want to be one of the nodes in the NuCypher network that is basically provisioning this service to users and getting paid for doing so, you would have to stake the NuCypher token as a kind of bond or collateral. So this is basically a civil resistance mechanism that basically requires that or prevents someone from like maliciously spinning up hundreds of thousands of nodes and immediately taking over the network. You have to stake the minimum amount of NuCypher tokens in order to become a node in the NuCypher network. And once you've done that, you'll get sort of work requests from users. Those users will pay for that work in ETH. So it's important to note that the NuCypher token is not used as a payment token, but you'll get paid in ETH. And then node operators also receive additional NuCypher tokens through inflation. So there's sort of, from a validator's perspective, there's two income streams. One is the inflation subsidy, and two is sort of the fee market and ETH that hopefully, obviously over time, will grow. From a validator standpoint, in the context of this conference, I think it's actually a great time to get introduced to the NuCypher network because we're kind of in the last push to mainnet, which means a lot of exciting opportunities are sort of currently happening for validators. So right now, we are running an incentivized testnet called Come and Stake It. The first phase of that actually is still open and lasts until February 7th. And basically, we have a set of tasks, and if you complete a sufficient number of those tasks during each phase, you have the opportunity to potentially earn an allocation of NuCypher tokens at mainnet launch. And actually tomorrow in our workshop that I'll be doing tomorrow night, depending on how much time we have, basically I'll be going through the process of setting up a node and joining that incentivized testnet and staking and all the steps that are required to do that. And if we're able to, fingers crossed on the time and how long it takes things like Geth to sync. But if we're able to, and if all of you are able to follow along, we'll try to complete, if not all, as many of those tasks for phase 1 as we can. So ideally, if you're able to join that, you'll basically finish all of the tasks for the first phase of the incentivized testnet tomorrow. And then if you choose to continue on, we'll have future phases in the coming weeks. We're also distributing a significant number of the initial tokens through this mechanism called work lock, which is basically a way to get a genesis stake of tokens to validators. So the way the work lock works is you, if as a participant, you would escrow ETH into the work lock contract on chain, you'd get back stake locked NuCypher tokens. And stake locked just means the only thing you can do with those tokens initially is stake them to run a node. But if you do that, so those NuCypher tokens will allow you to trade them as you would, or transfer them as you would any traditional ERC20 token, but you'll also receive back all of your escrowed ETH. So if you're a validator and you're committed to being like a long-term staker or node operator on the NuCypher network, we think the work lock is a really interesting and sort of unique token distribution mechanism and opportunity for stakers to participate. And we'll also be launching mainnets immediately after the work lock ends. So all of this is happening this quarter, the incentivized testnet, the work lock, and mainnet launch. So for those of you who are looking for networks that are about to launch to become early stakeholders on and node operators on, I think the timing is great from the perspective of NuCypher. So that's sort of the summary of NuCypher. I will maybe answer a few questions before we break. So in regards to the inflation subsidy, what are the economic details around that? Is there a reward pool that will eventually exhaust, or is there a max supply for the NuCypher token? Yep. So we've actually designed our economics where the vast majority of the tokens will be distributed through inflation. So rather than being sold to investors in a pre-sale, most of the tokens will be going out through inflation and through staking. So at launch of the protocol or the network, there will be 1 billion tokens, and then the max total supply ever is 3.89 billion. So most are going out through inflation, and the way this works is the inflation subsidy is higher early on in the network's life, and then it will kind of exponentially decay over time and eventually go to zero once the max supply gets reached. And ideally, hopefully what happens is as that inflation subsidy is decaying, there's a fee market that's emerging kind of in step with that. So obviously, for the most part, inflation is, kind of a temporary thing for most, if not all, networks. And for us and for most networks, I think to be successful and sustainable long term, there does need to emerge some sort of fee market, which obviously requires actual adoption on the demand side. We do have a draft economics. Let me see if I can actually pull up the blog post and post it in the chat for you all. It is possible that the draft economics that we have currently will change. The total max supply is not going to change, but like the emission rate and how quickly everything goes out may change. So currently, I think we have roughly like 100% inflation at launch, which obviously quickly decays, but it's possible that will change a little bit prior to mainnet launch as we finalize things. But the actual mechanics that are described in this blog post, in the paper that's linked in that blog post, the mechanics like the fact that if you commit to staking for longer, for up to a year, you'll earn a higher basically inflation compensation than someone who only commits for a month. Those sorts of mechanics won't change. Cool. And where are they based? I don't know if that was addressed to Mark from Celo or us from NuCypher, but we are headquartered in San Francisco. I'm here in SF, but for the most part, we are a distributed team. So we're a team of currently 13 people, and a few of us are here in SF. We got people in Portland, Seattle, Berlin, Moscow, Spain. Why spin up thousands of nodes could be an issue? Do you airdrop equally those nodes? Yeah, so I think this is referring to this question is referring to my point about how the NuCypher token is basically a Sybil prevention mechanism. And it's not actually a problem if thousands of nodes join the network, if all of those nodes are staking. So if basically what we want to prevent is, as NuCypher is a permissionless network, anyone can join the network and provide the service, right? As long as they have the minimum stake. But what we don't want to happen is just anyone, without any stake, spins up a node, joins the network, says, "Hey, I'm open for business. Send me work. I'll do it." But they actually don't have any intent to do that work. So they're just basically spinning up a bunch of nodes that are attacking the network and have no real intent to actually do anything useful. And if that's the case, like obviously as a user, you come to the network, you send a work request, and a response is not. So that's basically what we're trying to prevent there. But the nodes in the NuCypher network can be in varying sizes. So we have a minimum stake requirement. So a node has to be at least a certain size. And then we also have a max stake, which means if you're, if you staked, I forget the exact number, but if you stake, let's say 100,000 NuCypher tokens, if that's the max stake and you have more tokens than that, you'll just need to split up your stake across a few different nodes. Please provide the link for NuCypher token. So for the most part, you can just go to www.nucypher.com, pop in there, and everything I talked about will be linked. We do all of our development in the open on Discord. So if you're interested in chatting with us or learning more, that's probably the best place to go. It looks like we've got to move on. So thanks, everybody.
Yes. So we're going to transition to our next few protocol companies. Just so you know, just so you can be prepared for the workshops tomorrow, we actually have documentation so you can set up your dev environment ahead of time, and I'll drop that in the chat. And I'm going to transition this right now.